All right, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of Gar Capital. Glad to be with you this morning, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on our YouTube channel. I did not do morning notes last week. I was out for the week, but back at it. It looks like I missed all the fireworks basically from Monday to Friday last week. The S&P basically unchanged in the stock market, but we're back Monday, August 12th, 2024. So glad to be back. Let's rock and roll. Dow futures are up 50 points this morning. The Nasdaq's up 48. S&P 500 up 12.5, up 0.23%. The Russell's rather flat, 2091, excuse me. Crude oil is up this morning, 1.43%. Gasoline futures are up 1.5%. Gold, keep an eye on gold this week. We have a CPI number coming out on Wednesday and a PPI number coming out tomorrow. So I expect gold to be affected, especially the dollar too. 27.90 on silver futures up 1.15%. Copper futures are up 1.23% this morning. Nothing that really stands out in Forex land other than the dollar yen, but we know how volatile that can be. 147.71 at 107. We do Forex signals too. We haven't traded dollar yen lately because it is so volatile and the spreads are getting very, very wide. So it'd just be I would say a little easier just to trade futures instead of Forex at this moment. Bitcoin futures, 59,930, down 1.74%. Ethereum is up though, 3.31%. And that's the rundown for the day so far, at least in equities. If we take pivot into bond land, 3.961 on a 10-year note. Those yields are up slightly. Dollar index 103.26. That's up as well. The VIX is also up, still above 20. Let's see if we can crack below 20. Once we do, then that's usually a really bullish sign. But let's take a look, starting with the NASDAQ futures. Got a couple levels here. Let's see if I can remove some of these alerts here. All right, we're going to go to the daily. And I went a little more detail on yesterday's video. That's a public video for everybody on YouTube. If you're a subscriber on YouTube, make sure to take a look at that video and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future ones. So with that being said, we also talked about the NASDAQ, S&P, the Russell, but kind of getting back over what we were talking about yesterday. If you guys remember, the March highs that we rejected was right around 18,677. We're pretty much right there. So today, I don't expect a ton of action because we probably will be getting positioning, meaning people are going to get ready for that CPI number on Wednesday. I believe Citigroup or Citibank is saying that there's going to be a 1.2% direction either way after the CPI reports come out at 8:30 in the morning on Wednesday. So about a 1.2 implied move, 1.2% or so. If we're talking about the S&P 500, you're looking at futures 1.2%. You're talking about maybe a 100-point move, 100 handle move. So we are back above on the S&P 500, back above the previous all-time highs and breaking above it. We're above the 200-day. We're above the 100-day. These are good signs. So I still expect us to move higher. This carry trade with the yen to me is more of a blip than anything else. And I think we're going to start getting the road to recovery. Got great earnings, good macroeconomic environment, the labor scare in terms of possible mass layoffs with the unemployment claims coming in better than expected on Thursday. Now it's really up to the Fed. Are they going to cut 50 basis points or 25 basis points in September? The CPI number will more than likely confirm that. If we come in better than expected, meaning lower than expected, or the exact or writing at expectations, excuse me, I think it's 0.2% on a monthly basis. Again, I talked about that yesterday. Then more than likely the 25 basis point view is going to be coming into fruition. And then we're starting to obviously get into that path of monetary easing. The last time we had rate cuts, guys, was COVID. What happened to stocks after that? Yes, we moved higher in 2021. Inflation creeps up. 2022 happens. So looking at this, we can say that 2025 will be okay when rates go up. Then 2026, start looking at positioning out. Every midterm election year tends to be pretty bearish. So we will see. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, thanks for being here, Capital. Yeah, all good here. Back to it. Let's see. NASDAQ, back to it. So 677. Next target would be right at that big trend line here that we broke down. That would be right around 879. So if we can get above 700 today on the NASDAQ, I would like to go long to 880. That's what I'm looking for if we start getting that move. The only issue is that it might just be a positioning day, guys, at the end of the day. So with all this news coming up, we may not get all this movement. But there's one stock that I put on my watch list that I want everyone to watch. It is Palantir. And Palantir is very close to breaking my alert. And once it does, there is a gap to fill here at 31.38. We also posted it at stocks that we're watching for the week. Let me see if I can get that for y'all. Here we go. Palantir above 30.36. We are going for the 31 to 32 strike calls. QQQ daily gap fill at 456. Break above 450. Keep an eye on the volume. And the banks. If we get a nice CPI reaction, banks will bid higher. Break above 42.91. Get us above that 20 DMA. Fills that daily gap and breaks the double top. So good stuff here. Let's see if Palantir gives us that shot to go long. And this was a name that we traded, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I just ran out of time. We had that big flush because of the BOJ and that carry trade of the yen. Things happen. Life happens. Sometimes it just rains, guys. Sometimes I'm just a little too early on these trades. Upstart was being another one. God, that's August for you. Gets a little wonky. But I like where we're heading. Obviously, we got that correction, big pullback, fine, reset those premiums. Guys, there's a lot of put action out there. I think we're kind of ripe for a nice squeeze post CPI. Volatility works both ways. We'll see. Tesla, it's part of my watch list. Is it part of my watch list this week? It is not. See the daily. We're above the 100 day. I got an alert above 204.22. There is a slight gap to fill at 205. So let me move that. 205.37. If we can get above there, I'm going to target 220. That's back at that trend line. We may get a crack at 225.30. To be fair, Tesla is losing market share the more I read about it. So this might be some sideways action on Tesla, really post the earnings report that we had. We still have that earnings gap to fill up there. I think it's right here at 244.56. Might be a grind to get there because automakers, seasonally speaking, the summer, they don't do that great. So most people are traveling back to school. Most people are not buying cars then. Cars, I believe, seasonally speaking, is springtime and the end of the year for the incentives. But in the middle of the dog days of summer, don't expect much from a car manufacturer. And again, we have to look at the prism as traders is that what's in demand? What are people wanting to buy so we can buy and sell it at a higher price? That's really it. And right now, Tesla, really since last week, pretty much unchanged. Not much to go by there. I think Palantir is a better setup for us, in my opinion. Josh, thanks for the question. Let's take a look at Bitcoin rather quickly. And I talked about this yesterday. On the future side, down about 1.78%. We're right below the trend line. Let's see if we can recapture that trend line, get above the 50-day. I'm going to place an alert at 63,870. Remember, I had Mara calls as well. They're getting hit. So I still believe that Bitcoin moves higher, obviously. We just need that rate cut. We need the dollar to fall more. And then Bitcoin, because it's dollar denominated, will go higher. That's what I'm waiting for. So still looking good. Obviously, we got that break, but at least we're back above the 200-day, just like NASDAQ, just like S&P, just like small caps, all pivot points, like I said yesterday. Let's take a look at Amazon. Yes, Amazon I really, really like here. If we're back above 168.95, that's back above the 200-day. We got a gap to fill at 180, and we will fill that gap. We just filled this downward one as well. I fully expect that Amazon gets back to 183.50 relatively soon, in my opinion. So looking at Amazon, remember, there's a little more of a possible push in terms of revenue or news. Tesla, for example, yes, they had their earnings gap and they still need to fill. I expect Amazon to have theirs filled because we have Walmart earnings on Friday. So if Walmart doesn't come in better than expected, maybe it's losing market share to Amazon. Amazon will be beneficiary and probably get us that little leg higher this week. And again, lower rates is a good thing for consumers. So maybe Amazon pushes higher. That's a cyclical. And that'll obviously benefit Tesla as well. I think everyone's pretty much ready for those rate cuts, Fed Chair Powell. Let's see if the market gets what it wants. But I do like Amazon to fill that upside gap. It's still a great company. They just missed on revenue. That was really the issue. Cloud is still fine. Amazon's a winner. I mean, I don't think I need to be here to tell everyone that. Who doesn't buy on Amazon, right? Who doesn't shop there? Thank you for the question. Let's see. Microsoft had one more I wanted to look at. Remember this circle that I drew here? This is weeks ago, where we talked about this possible top. And I also talked about it on the watch list and charts, but there was no volume on puts. Microsoft got to 400. Imagine that big pushback. So now Microsoft, guys, higher. Expect that. Above 410.20, I'm looking at 434. We're just stuck within this beautiful symmetrical channel. And I fully expect that Microsoft gets a nice bounce. It is up about $2.61. If there's a stock on your radar, Microsoft, Palantir, Amazon, those three I like. Those three I like for this week. If we get that push, we got Microsoft last week with our option signals. So that was nice. NVIDIA, I also had that expired, worthless, unfortunately. But let's see if we get another crack at it. We are holding the 100-day. I expect NVIDIA to move higher as well, as long as we hold that moving average. Get above 97.32. I think anything around 100 is a good buy zone to get it, to buy some more NVIDIA if you wanted to. There you go, Dove. Right around 100, you're doing pretty well. If you want to wait for the earnings report, I expect the earnings report to be bullish, and we'll probably get to around 120, in my opinion. So right now, I mean, I wouldn't try to look for a tactical level to get into. Like, if you like NVIDIA, this is a good place to buy, in my opinion. So either way. SMCI, that has been brutalized, but they're doing a 10-1, 10-1 split. So we are up this morning, broke below the 200-day. You do have a gap to fill from earnings. That's pretty much your target, 659.70. If we get that bounce, if you're looking for an entry, let's say if someone wants to buy the stock relatively cheap, was it a stock split? 347.41 would be the target. But SMCI is going to have that split, but we saw what happened with Chipotle and all these names that did the splits. Right when that happens, it gets to get a little more pullback. So let's see if SMCI gives us a little more room. Again, if you're looking at this in the terms of a long-term perspective, and you really, the semiconductors that I like the most are still AMD and NVIDIA. Yes, there's the SMCIs of the world. There's Taiwan Semiconductors. There's a lot. But if you're looking for one with possible value on a big dip, SMCI would be one. And that's where we are. But again, complete breakdown. If we're looking for a continuation lower and you break below this low of 477.53, I don't think that'll happen. Then you're looking at possible swing down to 347.41. It's a big retest of this push higher, and we'll see where we go from there. All right. Good stuff all around, guys. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that we may not get a ton of action today. It might just be positioning all around because we have the PPI number and the CPI number. So levels you want to look for in NASDAQ futures is above 18,700. I would target right around 18,876 for a possible TP2. TP1 would be 18,800 if you're looking at that. Palantir above 30.36. I'm looking for the 31 to 32 strike calls. Microsoft, if we can get above 410.20, I'm looking at possibly the 420s, 430s. Now, again, this would be positioning ahead of CPI. Manage that expectation. If it's really, really hot, we're going to get hit. I don't expect the CPI to be hot, but again, anything can happen, obviously. So we will see what we get. AMD was another name that I'm watching as well this week. Get above 140.91, and it was part of the watch list as well. I got a target of 145. That's the 20-day. But until then, you still got this trend line support of right around 120. And this is a name that we talked about that's still stuck in that symmetrical downward channel. Nothing has really changed. You have an earnings gap, right? Is that an earnings gap? No. It's just a gap down from 174.52. I fully expect AMD to pull a Tesla. Does everyone remember that when everyone hated Tesla? Yeah, everyone hated Tesla back in April. Remember that? And then we played the earnings and we got the boost, got the breakout. Now we're back in the channel. AMD will get us in the same position. You will get by the end of the year, in my opinion, or 12-month rolling, let's call it, 172 on AMD. I like AMD for the second half of the year. If we were doing a fantasy stock draft, I know CNBC does that, where people pick the stocks and whoever does the best, they get money to their charity. My first round pick is between Palantir and AMD. I know it's kind of like fantasy football-ish. It's very gamifying, but this is what it is. I like those two the most. For the second half of the year, since we're in it. Just a heads up. What time is the CPI and PPI print? PPI is tomorrow at 8:30. That's the producer price index. This is what companies pay for. That's their inflation reading. CPI consumer price index is on Wednesday at 8:30. So it's a little inverse this time. It usually is CPI first, PPI first, but the calendar gods like to change things back and forth. So there we go. Thanks for being with me, guys. I appreciate it as always. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow for the next morning note. And have a great rest of your trading day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.